Well, 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 well. Hello,
Hello.
everybody. How's it going? Amazing. So cool to see a bunch of people already joining the stream. I think in the last couple of minutes, we had like 20 people waiting. There is already activity in the chat. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Um, Super happy to have you all here. And I hope that you are getting some really cool stuff from our speakers as well. For those of you who are waiting, because I see like five, six different people discussing things in the chat. But if you haven't said hi in the chat, feel free to do that. The chat is on the cameras and direction on the right hand side of the screen normally. So if you're not in full screen, you have the chat. If you want to watch us in full screen, that's cool too. You can pop out the chat in a separate window and continue chatting on a different screen if you have multiple screens, for instance. Yeah, feel free to use the chat to literally just like talk about whatever you want to talk about, ask questions for the speakers. We don't really have a moderated Q&A kind of situation. We do have a kind of like after party situation where you can also just hang out. I'm hoping that you all use that opportunity. We have a Jitsi instance for that. Um, yeah, how about everyone just like says hi in the chat and where you're based and how you're doing and what you're doing. Are you developers? Are you designers? Are you UX experts, SEO experts? What's your background? And yeah, let's start with that. I do see a few familiar names and faces and new names and faces as well, hopefully throughout the day. That would be cool. And we started 100 seconds ago. Well, now more than 100 seconds ago. That's interesting. Oh, people today are a little slow in going to the chat. That's unfortunate. There is no such thing as no without skills. I'm pretty sure you have amazing skills. And especially if you're a nerd, what are you nerding out about, Roman? Are you, I don't know, like a web nerd or a Star Wars nerd or a Star Trek nerd or a Lord of the Rings nerd or a skiing nerd or what's up? Oh, nice. A Zurich, our Zurich crowd is here as well. Well, if you want to build a website and don't know how, then I'm sure people in our Slack community will happily help you. If you're not on Slack yet, you can go to webzurich.ch and find the link to the Slack there. There's lots of people who are happy to help you learn things and just build stuff together. Mirko Mirko and Roman apparently are hanging out together then. So Roman is the manager nerd. Mirko, I know, is the technical nerd. But Roman is a former cool programmer nerd. Cool. So what kind of programming languages did you use to work with? Ah, awesome. So newsletters is already in Slack. I highly recommend checking out the slash introductions, I think is the channel where you can introduce yourself and ask if someone else is like learning right now or wants to help you out on things. That's kind of cool. Roman is the boss nerd and he does Lotus script. Ooh. Hi René, where are you based? Full stack from Zug. It's a bunch of people from Zug here, right? That's cool. Full stack. Good stuff. What is ape language? I don't think I've seen that one before. But yeah, Java, I mean, yeah, everyone kind of knows Java, I guess, or most people. But I guess now that you moved into management, you're kind of happy that you don't have to write Java anymore. Well, hi, Carrie. Yeah, don't sweat it. It's good to have a pseudonym online. Add functions. Okay. Wow. I think I have to Google that. I'm not sure. AP Funktionslanguage. Oof. Right. Super cool. So, Zurich country doing PHP. That's awesome. welcome to our stream. In that case, also we're considering actually while I have, you might wonder why I have gathered you all here. I don't expect you. What was it? I don't expect you to talk. I expect you to die, Mr. Bond. In this case, I don't expect you to talk about bad things that you are trying to do because you're not villains. But I'd like your opinion on something. We are considering, given the opportunity that we have to run a physical meetup again next month, would you say that's a good thing, or would you not be interested in being part in a physical meetup? We might actually, for the time being, continue to stream while we're doing physical meetups, but it would be kind of cool to resume our physical meetups as well. But we're wondering, like, if we do that and then no one shows up because everyone's like, then that's probably not a good idea. Yeah, Maxim, you're underselling yourself. You're not just a PWA and cloud nerd. You're just like a generally awesome developer. So come on, don't undersell yourself here.
I'm a bit also community nerd, developer community
nerd. Good thing. Community nerds are very busy usually. I know that because I'm a community nerd as well. Awesome. So we have 2 votes for yes, we would come to Viaduct. So we would at least not be alone in Viaduct. That's nice. But again, as I say, I understand everyone who does not want to go back to physical meetups yet. That's perfectly fine, especially if you're part of a risk group. Better stay home. That's why we will see if we can figure out the logistics of streaming while we are at Viaduct. But I think it's nice to also have the opportunity to have a face-to-face conversation. I mean, I love the chat, and I'm super happy that you are all in the chat and talking to me. For all those who are joining the stream who haven't heard my plea earlier, do join the chat. Say hi, say where you're from, what you're doing, like developer or SEO or front end, back end. What are you doing, designer? And I'm really, really happy that a bunch of people are using the chat, and we have a little bit of interaction, and we will get more interaction in the after party. We have this, so Jitsi has the upside that you can use your microphone and or camera if you want to, and actually have a conversation with others. So the after party, as we call it, is going to be really nice. But in the chat, at least we have a little bit of textual interactions, but I think face-to-face is quite nice as well. Sweet. So we have another couple of minutes before I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. And then once I have done the housekeeping, we will start with Maxim. We did change the schedule a little bit. We are swapping Maxim into the first slot as he has to be somewhere else later today. So then Doug will be running up in Maxim's slot, and in the middle we have Dido. Super cool. Yeah, I mean, Maxim, I think, has his first Web Zurich talk, but Doug has been part of this lovely meetup before, and also when it was an actual physical in-person thing, which is nice. Also in August, I don't have the August date on the top of my head right now, but in August we'll also do our summer barbecue again. All things considered, like tentatively in August, we will do our summer barbecue. We'll see if that can happen, and if it does, then also it depends a little bit on the turnout. 21st, Alexei has the details. 21st of August. We'll have our summer barbecue, but we'll have to see about the turnout, and we'll probably run a poll up front to see how many people do feel comfortable joining, because what's the point of getting a barbecue set up when there's not many people popping by? Again, is fine. It's just makes planning a little trickier for us. There will be. enough to eat. I think we never ran out of food so far. And we've been doing this, I think 3 times or 3 times now? I think 3 times. We've done this before. That's what I know. Last time we had this amazing smoker barbecue. And then beforehand, I think I'm not sure if we did this twice already or if this was only last year. And the year before, we kind of improvised. But it was nice. So we did. Okay, so again, Alexei has a better memory than I do, clearly. We've done the proper barbecue twice, and beforehand we were going into a park and just having fun. That was also nice. No, Mirko, we don't do home delivery for that one. It's a community barbecue. You have to you have to show up for it, okay? No home delivery. I mean, you can have a barbecue yourself on your balcony or terrace. That's totally fine too, right? All right, sweet. Now, as we are Swiss and it is 7 p.m., I shall get going. So welcome, everyone. As I already said, this is our 3rd month of virtual meetups. I'm really, really happy to see you all here. Please do feel free to say hi, where you're based in and what you do for a living in the chat, and definitely interact with other participants as well as our speakers. After this meetup, there will be an after party kind of situation where you can live chat with everyone using at least your microphone. If you want to, you can also use your camera. You don't have to. So that's going to be pretty fun. Yeah, and I pressed the focus is on the wrong window. That's fantastic. Cool. So welcome to the June version of our virtual meetup. This year, we have a hashtag #WebZurich, if you want to tweet about things that you see here or things that you found quite interesting and useful. What are we? I wonder in the chat if you can tell us if you're here for the first time or if you're like a repeat visitor. That would be quite interesting as well, because I want to see how many people are returning and how many people are new here. I know that a few people are definitely new. A digital badge, I don't think we can do a digital badge because I don't think we have any kind of badges really, but I wonder if we can like figure out something that you can put on your profile picture or something like I was here when we were virtual. Interesting idea. So for those of you who are here the first time, we are a local community, normally local community. Now our locality is the internet, woohoo, of people who do things on the web. And by that, I don't mean just like browsing the web, but actually creating things on the web. And that includes web designers, user experience experts, web developers, web accessibility experts, marketing people, SEOs, content strategy, e-commerce, interaction design, virtual reality, pretty much everything that can be done on the web should be represented in this community. We are not just this meetup community that you might see now. We are also having a Slack where lots of people chit-chat about all sorts of stuff. A bunch of projects have started in the Slack. A few people found jobs through the Slack. So if you want to be more in touch with our community, most of the life happens in Slack. We have a convenient website that lists the next upcoming event, has the videos of the previous talks, as well as all the other bits and pieces. It's all tying up the big bundle and links to Slack as well as Meetup. If you go to webzurich.ch. And yeah, we just want to bring people together who build things on the web, to exchange ideas, to talk about challenges, to solve problems together, and to just like, hang out and have fun together. That's why we also create these normally in-person, face-to-face meetups, so that you get to know like who else is struggling with similar things, who else is in my vicinity where I can like grab a beer with, or a non-alcoholic drink of your choice. And just like hang out and enjoy a little bit. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to be a super pro. You don't have to be like a speaker yourself or anything, but you can. And that's the big important thing. Even if you're a beginner, you can find people to learn together with. You can find ideas and inspiration and ask for help in the community. And we just want to get together and share what we learn, share what we find, share what we do, and work together and have fun. And lots of people are like finding each other for like little hacker groups where they sit together and write things together and build stuff together. Super fun. We do have a monthly meetup. So as I said, this is the June meetup. The next one will be in July, and so on and so forth. Every month we have a meetup. It's mostly in English. Pretty much everything in these meetups and the talks will always be in English, just to make sure that as many people as possible can jump in. If it's a face-to-face meetup, we are not like preventing you from speaking whatever language you want to speak, but it makes it easier for other people to join in to just speak English. And this meetup is as much yours as it is ours. You are part of this community. If you are watching this and listening to my words right now, you're welcome as part of this community, but that also means you can participate in this community actively. We are always looking for talks. Our talks are short, 15 minutes. We're happy to help you prepare slides and rehearse and talk about potential topics. If you're not sure if a topic would be interesting or not, just ask us. We're happy to give feedback on this. And without talks, the meetups don't really make that much sense. So without talks, the meetups would not exist. We have been pretty successful in keeping this running for the last couple of years, but without your active contribution, this wouldn't survive long. So if you feel like you learned something, and even if it's the most basic thing ever, doesn't matter. Other people might not know this yet or might not have seen it through your eyes. So you have a story to tell. Please feel free to share this story with others. We usually get, I mean, not so much now that's a virtual meetup, but like we used to get invitations to host the meetup in various offices. Thank you very much. But we stay in our neutral home at Impact Hub. And also if you are taking part of in any of the events, like if you're in the face-to-face events, in the virtual streams, in the chat on Slack, in the after party, please follow our code of conduct to make sure that everyone is having a good time. If you feel that someone gives you a hard time, let us know. We're happy to help when necessary. This is, when I say we, this is the team. Without these wonderful people, this would probably not exist and wouldn't have existed in the last 4 years now. So definitely thank you to everyone who makes this happen. It's amazing to be part of this fantastic team. Today, we are pretty much complete. And we are doing this in our free time, so we are not really making money off of this. And if we are running these barbecue events and these things that are free for the community, it would just be fantastic if you would chip in a little bit. There are ways of helping us out, either with drinks or bringing snacks to the events, or just like figuring out with us, just talk to us if you have a specific idea on how to help us keep this running. We have 3 fantastic sponsors today. The first one is Rockstar, that has been supporting us throughout the months, and they bring a video for you as well. So they come with a message.
Hi everyone on Web Zurich. My name is Clara from Rockstar Recruiting. And as my lovely colleague Kieran already did on the last Web Zurich meetup, I would also like to briefly take the chance to go through our latest hot jobs with you. So let's start with that. We have 2 roles at a fast-growing food startup. Their main backends are written in C#, .NET, and Python, and therefore they are looking for one senior full-stack developer with core skills in .NET and one senior backend developer with focus on Python. Furthermore, we have a full stack role for a music technology company, and you should bring some knowledge in JavaScript, Python, Django, HTML, and CSS. And all 3 positions are located in Zurich, and the good thing is German is not required. It's nice to have, but not necessary. So if you feel comfortable with that, or you might know someone who could be interested in these positions, feel free to reach out to me right after this presentation on Slack. Or if you might know someone who could be interested, yeah, feel free to share the job description or my contact details with him or her. And just that you know, we also have an attractive referral program. So thanks for your time and enjoy the talks. Bye bye.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Clara. Thanks for Rockstar for all the help that they provide us with. We have also Graph CMS and Valtech helping us out. Graph CMS helps us with our website, fantastic solution if you need a headless CMS, and Valtech helps us with general sponsorship, and they are a fantastic partner as well. Thank you so much for helping us with keeping this meetup running, keeping the lights on, as they say. Yes, so as I hinted at, the meetups are one part of our community. The bigger part is the Slack chat that's basically always happening. You can always jump in and have a fun conversation in the random channel, for instance, or you can see our latest announcements in the announcements channel. You can introduce yourself and see what other people are up to in the community, and you can always find people to help you with various problems and challenges that you might be facing, as well as posting your own challenges so that other people can jump in and help you as well. But for today, because we wanted a little bit of face time with you all, we do have this video chat under webzh.dev/afterparty after this meetup, where you can jump in. You just need a microphone. Camera is optional, and you can chat with each other as well as us. I'll be there. I guess some of our speakers might join as well. And then, we can have a little bit of chit-chat and just have a good time together, which isn't so easy with the YouTube stream plus the chat. So I'm looking forward to see you all there afterwards. The next meetup will be on the 17th of July. Easy to remember, today in a month, basically. And we're still looking for speakers. If you're interested, either in person or remotely via video chat, go to webzurich.ch, and there is a little button that allows you to submit your talk idea. If you are not sure if you have an idea for a talk, let me know. We're happy to help you figure out something. It's only 15 minutes. It doesn't hurt. It's a lot of fun. Sweet. And with that being done, that was my housekeeping. I'm super excited to introduce you to Maxim Salnikov. We met, I'm not sure where we met the first time, Maxim. It has been a long, long time ago, I know. But you are working for Microsoft as a developer advocate, and I think you're based in Norway, is that right?
Yeah, exactly, Martin. I'm from Oslo, Norway, and we met many conferences ago, and since that we met at tons of other events in multiple countries around the world. Yeah, this is I believe how developer relation folks live. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here, and it's my first appearance on Web Zurich meetup. So we planned my appearance for a while, and initially we planned in person, on-site experience, but of course then something happened, and I'm here to be online and super excited, super happy to deliver a session.
Super awesome that you're here. Thank you so much, Maxim, for making ends meet with us. And we are super excited to have you at Web Zurich finally. And while we are online, you're talking about taking your websites or your web apps offline, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And in a good sense.
Yes. So, folks, let's talk about web and offline. I hope that offline will not happen during my session because it's all live, it's all connected to internet. So, yep, let's try to keep us online and talk about offline. Let me start. And we start from sort of definition or maybe dreams about proper offline ready web application. And also I'll do my best to give you some hints how to build the one right here, right now in 20 minutes we have today, maybe 20 minutes, 10 seconds. Let's see. About me, yes, Martin, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I do developer relations for Microsoft, and I'm a big fan of progressive web apps. I run meetups about PWA. I run conferences about web development and mobile development. If you mix these two, you will get PWA, right? In terms of user experience. And also, I plan to run PWA conference, full-scale one. Actually, it was planned for this April, but again, something happened, and we postponed it. But let's stay connected. Sooner or later, we'll have this. Please follow my Twitter, WebMaxRU, where I mainly tweet about web as a platform, about latest, greatest APIs, and of course about progressive web apps. Let's talk about web as a platform before we start our offline journey. So why do we ever can reason about web, like about something where we can build, distribute, and run our application, and of course share our applications for our dear users, customers, clients? Well, I have lots of points in this green plus button, and yeah, we all know the current state of the web, with browsers are everywhere, and most of them are evergreen, so we don't have to care so much about versions. We have great JavaScript language. Yeah, I know people love it, people hate it, but it's versatile. Definitely it is. We have great folks working on engines to run JavaScript from browser vendors mainly, and they all focused on performance. Best in class tools we have in the big picture. It's about IDE support, about all these endless frameworks, libraries. Majority of them are open source, so just enjoy to use this. And of course, huge community of us web front-end developers. So we are talking about millions. If I remember correctly, last Stack Overflow survey showed that around 70 people who took part in this quite a large survey, they work with JavaScript. But what's on the minus side? Of course, there are like some points, but today we focus on this particular one. More than 30 years ago, when web was invented, it was not about running the applications, not about being a platform for the apps. And historically, we have this problem connected with initial purpose to be just distributed, let's say, hyperlink document system. We too much depend on being online. Let's try to bust this. First, let's try to think what builds great offline ready web application. Well, not that much to invent here. We can just grab our mobile device, or I don't know, open our laptop and check the native apps for this platform, because yeah, they are naturally born offline ready apps. So once you download something, install something, you have this app always ready, right? So first we have to make sure that once we visited a resource or maybe explicitly asked to install something, it will be there regardless of the connection, and not just in form of HTTP cache. It's not the level we want to have control over. During runtime, I believe 99.9% of the web applications, some data from APIs, CDNs, lots of different sources. And of course, it's really good idea to very mindfully collect this data for future reuse. So we are talking about very properly organized caching here. When we are offline, still many kinds of the applications can offer something to do for the users. I don't know, if you take, for example, Instagram, we can start putting hundreds of filters to our beautiful picture of some landscape without taking care of, are we connected now or not? If not, we'll just hit send or post, and be sure that this picture will be delivered, right? So why not to have the same functionality on the web? And connection status is not something super stable sometimes, right? So, and the jumping back and forth online, offline should not heavily affect user experience. Plus updates of the application itself and its data. It's something pretty natural for native, for example, mobile apps. So they just update themselves in the background. They fetch fresh data to delight you when you open them. Yeah, now we have something for the web. And of course, we want to use all the features of our great devices proxied via features of the platform. If, again, we go back to mobile devices, majority of them equipped with great media capabilities, tons of different sensors, and yeah, we really want to use it in our web apps, online or offline, doesn't matter. With all these requirements, we still want to keep the nature, the soul of the web, if you wish, linkable, open, and pretty much everywhere. Good. Okay, I think we have very few minutes to briefly scroll through some of these options. We start from the application itself. So not a secret. What do we have to think about as developers to provide something that we can run offline? We have to understand what we want to cache. On the first start, we have to put it somewhere, right, on the user device, and later we can serve it from cache. And it can work both for online and offline. And definitely, we don't want to always serve very first version, so version management is crucial here. All these tasks are taken care of our great helper, Service Worker API. How it might look in case of completely manually written one. So just to give you a refresher, a Service Worker, this is sort of programmable proxy which sits in between of our application and all outer world, which actually gives us all this magic possibility of serving some resources from cache and putting these resources into the cache. So on install step of Service Worker on this event, we put something into the cache. On activate, we manage versions, and fetch, it's where the magic happens, where we check, do we want to go to the network to fetch this resource, or we can fall back to the cache. This session is not getting started with Service Worker, so do not expect too deep dive into this. But let's say, if you try to build your own Service Worker, you can easily get to this situation. Service Worker is quite challenging thing because you have to care about many things before pushing something to production, even in the simplest case. What do I mean by many things? Let me give you something. Again, it's not a session about building proper service workers manually. Yeah, maybe I have something else. And it's not the full list, of course. So as I mentioned, even before pushing more or less Hello World up with Service Worker to production, you have to care about many things, and you have to dive deep, for example, into HTTP protocol internals, because it has many modes, lots of edge cases, and still, after all, something might go wrong, and you'll see your first version instead of all the next ones. Well, do we have a helper? After all, I promised that you can start right here and right now. Yes, we have a great library called Workbox, supported by folks from WebDevRel team of Google and all community. So it's a classical, well-written, well-tested, quite mature open source product, which is version 5 at the moment, which gives us great possibility to have our own service worker and extend it by nice features. It has lots of interesting features going out of the box. So basically, it's all in one experience for all network things of your website. Without any delay, let's start. Let's do npm install workbox build save dev. But don't do it now. Just do it after our after party, or maybe during after party, and then I can guide you through the process. And we can safely put it into the developer dependencies. What's next? Since this will be Node.js-driven version of Workbox, there are multiple versions. For example, there is a plugin for Webpack. we stick to Node.js. We have to write simple JavaScript file to actually build our service worker. And let's start from configuration part of this. Again, we don't go through all the options, of course. If you remember, first part of our bulleted list of what needed for offline app is to understand what constructs the application shell of our web application. And of course, here we have to help understand source service worker. And even by the name of this property, you understand that this is something that's not ready to be deployed yet, right? It's source service worker, and we have to run this workbox build to have production service worker. How this service worker might look in simplest scenario if we just need application, application itself, and and here we have to so are you good? Okay, but can I continue? Okay, good. One. Okay, you see, we you see, we experience offline problems. That happens in the modern web situation. So I continue, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, I apologize, folks, for these technical issues. Yeah, everything might happen. We are live. This is beauty of this this event. Yeah. So this is how our source service worker file is looking like. Literally 2 lines and one method called precache and route. And what we have to do by actually building this service worker, why we ever need this workbox build.js, is to populate this method by actual information about our app. What do I mean? Literally file name and it hash sum to manage versions. We can do it by hand, but why to do this if we have great helper from workbox side? And literally this method does all the dirty job for us. Caching, managing versions, and serving to our clients after all. And if we go back to this workbox build, so on line number 5, you see this configuration we had on previous slide. Well, that's just a question of another method called inject manifest. So if we go back, what is it? Does it just builds this array of resources and injects it into precache and route and copy service worker to the proper destination. And then the last step for us is to build the service worker and have this process as the last one in building of our overall app. Of course, for this case of simplicity, I simplified this a bit because you see that in source service worker we have ES6 import, and but I don't use this kind of building of you literally any unneeded but you have to more webpack. So just of the browser. Again. Yes. So then just ping me when I can continue. Maybe I have to turn off my. It's back. Welcome back, folks. Now I see my screen. I hear myself. Do you hear me? Do you see me? Maybe
Yes.
I have to turn off my camera. Okay, that's just for And we are trying to continue the session. So some technical problems today. Any kind of issues. So, okay, folks, we just discussed how to build proper application shell. If you experience
the case, then I'm worried that sign from the YouTube chat if you can hear me and if the audio is okay. Audio seems to be okay. Can always happen according to Murphy's Law. Yes. Thanks, Francesco. Sounds okay, now fine. Look and sound okay. Woo. I mean, look is not okay. It's fantastic, isn't it? But I think we'll try our best. Sorry for the interruption of Maxim's talk. We'll try to figure out what we can do in that sense. If we can't make it happen today, we'll find another time for Maxim's talk. And we can try one more time. Hopefully Maxim is still around and we might be lucky and now it magically works. The issue is like there's multiple moving parts. It has been working quite fantastically the last 2 times we did this. Third time's apparently not a charm, unfortunately. Maxim is back and ready, I think. So whenever you all are ready, we can try another attempt or make another attempt. Sorry again for the interruption.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Just okay.
Thanks for the talk. It's awesome, and I hope that we get to see it in the full length with technical problems. So yes, we are back on YouTube, and I hope still is okay. All right. So this is confusing because the YouTube stream is a little behind the real time stream. Zoom is not an option really, but we will try out different setups at some point as well. We're not even sure where the problem is. It might be, so we're recording through Skype. It might be some Skype issues. Who knows? not the goal of this event to figure that one out. I'm very sorry that we had to interrupt the talk here. Maxim is available for a talk in the later meetup, hopefully, and we get to actually see the entire talk in its length without these annoying technical issues. I'm very sorry for that. We are learning this as much as you are. Things can go wrong. Sorry for this, but they're, computers, they're terrible. Cool. So I think we will move on to our next talk, which is Dido Grigorov, who will talk about SEO and page quality in 2020, which is an interesting topic and always has been an interesting topic. I think SEO is one of these topics, or search engine optimization is one of these topics that is generally a little overlooked by many, and there's like lots of mysterious things ranking around it, like, ooh, there's all these secrets and these magical things that you can do, and really it is about delivering good quality content. I'm really, really excited to have Dido here, and I'm really looking forward to his talk. So please give a warm round of applause in the chat for our next speaker, Dido, and take it away.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen now, so I can start the presentation here. Actually, my topic is SEO website quality in 2020, like Martin said. A little bit about me. My focus is technical SEO, and content strategies, our front-end development and machine learning. I had a great chance to be lecturer of a white team talk at Google 2 years ago, and I'm a Google Silver product expert at the Webmaster Forum at the moment. Let's start with the technical quality of a website. The first thing which is important is the accessibility of a website. And I'm going to give you some tips, summarized tips today, how to make a website really, really good, so search engines would love it, and hopefully Google would love them too. So the first thing is make sure your server is fully accessible, and make sure you don't return any inappropriate server status codes like 401, 403, 5xx errors. Many people are doing the mistakes to improperly configure their robots.txt, and then the questions about crawling are here, like why this page is not crawled, why this is not indexed, why Google or any other search engine doesn't see it. This is one of the reasons why. Sitemaps do help a lot, for sure, for initial crawling and indexing, for finding new pages or updated content as well. It really helps, for example, Google, and especially if you submit your sitemap on the Google Search Console, for Google to find your updated pages, for example, or new pages you have created, or maybe if you have a new website, this will be one of the ways Google will find it faster than usual. Be careful with the proper configuration of your SSL. I have a lot of background, years of experience in SEO, and I know that if you have a improperly set up SSL, sometimes your website could be inaccessible, or browsers will start giving you some wrong messages, or Windows. Also, make sure you don't have too heavy or very slow loading resources in the form of JavaScript, CSS, or images, and of course, no soft or false. When it comes to the crawling and indexing, improve your indexing by making sure the search engines won't crawl pages which shouldn't be crawled and indexed. This is really important. That's why we have to prioritize. Always use simple, readable, and logical URL paths. And if you have any URL parameters, I know this is something that is usually expected, especially if you have some specific services on your website. So just define them. Provide clear and direct internal links within the website. Don't make them way too many, or don't just make them clear, and make the anchor text descriptive, and so the user will have a good idea where you will where they will go once they click the internal link on your website. If you have a href lang, then point it to the right alternate language pages. clearly identify your canonical pages. The canonical text are actually very, very important for indexing, and sometimes a lot of bad things are happening there if you don't set them properly. And reduce the duplicate content for better crawling and indexing as much as possible. Recently, many people in the SEO community started talking about rendering. Yes, rendering is really important, and I would like to put some emphasis on 4 points here. The layout should be properly rendered. So rendered when you test, for example, your website with the URL test tool on Google Search Console, you should be able to see the layout as it is on your browser. If you don't see the same, then you have a problem for sure. And it could be something with your CSS or JavaScript resources, or maybe just poor HTML. Content should be easy, readable. All elements should work really properly, just like they work on a mobile phone or your computer. And there are no inaccessible resources or elements. This is actually easy to be seen when you go and see on Google Search Console that it's everything readable, or maybe 1 or 2 resources are which are not crucial to the layout and the overall content on the page are not loaded, then this is not a problem. Let's jump into the content quality and your manual Wi-Fi algorithms of Google. What is actually high quality content for search engines like Google? I would like to start with first that this is a content that's written by an expert in a subject. You have to be really a good expert like you, for example, who writes the content and not a person who pretends to be an expert. This content should be well written and easy to follow. I know that sometimes terms are used and it will be a little bit difficult, but a really well written content by an expert is something that is really differentiates a lot compared to something that is just like a summary, like an overall, like something written from a bird eye. Use always meaningful headings to indicate to indicate important topics. I would add also subtopics, and help create a hierarchical structure for your content. Or in other words, always try to format your content so search engines will be able to better understand it, and of course the users will be able to better understand it. Always cover what your readers want, or in other words, have a look and analyze your audience. Try to give them the best you want. You can even some extra value. All topics, system topics should be clearly organized. The content should be always unique. If you want to copy something or make a size or something like that, you have to mention that. You have to mention the author or the source. And keep in mind the expertise and authoritativeness of a site increases its quality. And this is like a summary of the points above. Always write with a strong purpose and have a goal for your page. Could be an educational goal, could be a call to action goal, could be both of them. This is up to you. And content should be attributed to an author with info about its expertise or background. And this is actually where the EAT comes, because according to the EAT guidelines, we have to cover this requirement and to show on our website that our content is produced by a real expert. Or we have to show the expertise, we have to write about this expertise, we have to show some proofs about this expertise, and maybe some projects or anything else, whatever is interesting to the users and you think it's important about the author. We'll continue with the subtopic, and the content should be factually accurate, clearly written and comprehensive. Distracting advertisements should be avoided, which is something I think is pretty understandable. It is very annoying when you see a really good and interesting article, but a lot of advertisements are popping out left and right, or from top to bottom. So you have to go and chase the buttons for closing and so on. Internal links should be used really wisely with descriptive and relevant anchor texts. This is important because we have to make sure that your user will click there or will tap there on their mobile devices, and the flow of the user and the customer journey will be covered within the website and through the pages. If you can, it will be great if you can provide some extra value, like your own research on a topic. This will be really well rewarded, especially because you provide some other aspects when it comes to a specific topic or any subject. It will be good if you can support the content with images and video. Never forget to add descriptive alt text and image titles. This is something that is a very common problem. Sometimes the image is a title like image 002, for example, or something like that. No, provide some good titles, so you will have a better chance to be ranked in the Google Images area of Google, for example, or maybe any other search engine might be. User experience, a very interesting topic, and something that a lot of people started talking about during the recent years, and the mobile friendliness with quality. Let's start with help visitors use your pages. Many people tend to make a lot of elements on the pages without a user on their mind, just because they think that this is great, and providing a lot of options on the page sheet will and that way they will provide the greatest user experience. But this is not right. The first thing you have to do is create a naturally formed and logical hierarchy. What I mean is that start thinking about your website from the navigation and the URL paths and the structural tone, how you will organize and categorize your content. Then think about the overall information architecture, and never add something that is not needed, or maybe you can place on another page on your website. The navigation should be simple, easy to use, easy for understanding. Create a simple navigational page for users, and show useful 404 pages, not just a blank page with 404 or something like that. Numbers, you can make some good, for example, you can share some articles, recent articles, maybe some good useful links with resources. Simple URLs usually convey content information, so let the user predict what they will see once they just see the URL. Make sure your website is mobile friendly. You can test it with the Google Mobile Friendly testing tool, maybe any other tools, All call to action should work. This is something that many people just forget. They make some great buttons, sections, maybe, or just some maybe labels or pop-ups or something like that, but at the end of the day, they just don't work. No broken images, of course. Despite the fact what is the Wi-Fi connection or maybe other internet connection, all the images you have should be easy for loading. They should load very fast, and they shouldn't be too heavy when it comes to file sizes. The image sizes should be good enough for the different kind of devices. They should fit the overall design. No broken functionality at all, because this will lower down the quality of the website a lot, especially if the users are not happy because, for example, filtering doesn't work well or doesn't work at all. Ensure that your site appears correctly in different browsers, a very, very common issue, again, because sometimes we see that on Google Chrome or Mozilla, everything works well, but once we open Safari, and it's totally different. Proper content reordering, this is another thing that is also important and a very good signal, both for SEO, both for and the users. It is where you can see it when you open your website on different devices. For example, you see that despite of what is the size of the display, all the elements are rolling in the proper way, how they should be, or at least in a good, reasonable way. Good background and foreground contrast ratio. ratio actually. Sorry. So this is also very important, and it is on the image on the right side. Sometimes just the content is not readable, and it's another thing that some changes like Google, for example, may take into consideration, because the user may be not able to read the content so easy, and this is sometimes very easy for measuring. Like, for example, if you see not so good average time spent on the pages, or for example, to a high bounce rate on Google Analytics or any other data analytics platform. Analyzing user behavior helps a lot, yes, for sure. Get insight into how users reach and behave on your website. This is really important. You can use software tools like Hotjar, for example, or any other software for heat maps like InspectLect or anything else. Discover the most popular content on your site. Make sure it is even more. It's even easier for finding, and it is the fresh and most up-to-date content on your website. Measure the impact of the optimizations to make your site. Did changing those title and description meta tags improve traffic from search engines? Yes, title and meta descriptions are really important, despite the fact that the meta descriptions are not anymore part of the signals for ranking, for example, but they still do play a very big role for the user experience on the pages with the results on the search engines like Google, for example. A/B test different sections and layouts. A/B test different call to actions, maybe, and try to provide the best user experience you can provide, so people are happy. They find whatever they want to find on a website. Maybe it could be an answer, it could be something to do, could be something to filter out, or maybe something to do on their own, but they should be able to do it. Provide the best possible loading speed. This is something I truly believe that search engines and people like Google and Martin are talking about all the time. Optimize your page loading times. Fast sites make users happy and improve the overall quality of the website. That's absolutely true. I know that many people just neglect it and think that if other websites let's say for a phrase or in a specific competition in a niche is not really good, then why should we care about the loading speed? But actually, if you really improve it, you will see how the organic traffic will. One of the things that will happen is actually that the organic traffic will go up, and at the same time you will see the users will be really, really happy, because they will find whatever they would like to find, or get the answer, or they will have their options they would like to see very, very fast. The next thing is actually, yes, the Google Page Speed Insights tool. Core Web Vitals are becoming important. We have 3 of them. They're something that we have to cover. It's important, and thank you to the blog post of Google about that. It is the largest contentful pane, the cumulative layout shift, and first input delay. Or in other words, we have to make sure that, if I have to summarize this, we have to make sure that people are going to find whatever they would like to find as fast as possible, and the interaction of the website and how it will be able with all the options and elements is something that will work really, really, really fast. Use SSL certificates. I think this is something really mandatory these days, but still many people neglect it. Make users feel way more comfortable to share personal info and details. And of course, be mobile friendly from top to bottom, because world is more than ever mobile now. Don't use any extensions for content visualization. Be careful with your viewport. The content shouldn't be wider than screen. I have seen in my background and my experience that many people put some elements, they just forget about the mobile friendliness and the responsiveness, and some things are going left and right, and you have to scroll left and right to see something and so on. So make sure you don't have any elements and modules on the layout of the pages of your website anymore. text shouldn't be too small to read. It should be easy for understanding. The recommended size is 1 EM or 8 to 10 words per line. And the last thing here is that clickable elements too close together shouldn't be actually too close together. 48 by 48 pixels area corresponds to the around 9 millimeters. So this is the area you should cover when you have some clickable elements. So the reason is that the user should be able to easily use the fingers and tap on these areas without clicking on 2 links at once. We all know that not just 1 link will be open, but clicking on just on 2 things will be kind of confusing. So the user will not know what is going on or what they are doing and so on. So make sure these elements are really at the good reasonable size around. Reasonable size. There is a reasonable size around these clickable elements. Thank you, guys.
All right, back I am. Oof. Sometimes it's hard to actually find the right window between all the windows. Thank you so much, Dido. That was pretty cool. And I would like to ask the chat if you have experience with, like, where you built a website that was good on the technical side but didn't go so well on the content side, or what are your experiences with SEO online, and have you had any issues, any of the problems that you just learned about? And I think what I liked about this was you also brought in like accessibility and user experience, and I think these are things that a lot of people overlook. They think like SEO is this weird black box of buying links, and it's always good to hear someone shedding a little bit of light about the backgrounds. Thank you so much for being with us, Dido. Well, as Maxime kind of dropped out in the middle, I didn't get to ask this question, but Dido will be around for the after party video chat as well, or do you have to jump on to other things?
I will be.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Sweet. So now we have heard about authority and trust already being part of a good website and having like good content. But another thing is part of good content is also good visual content, right? And that's like images and videos. And I know that we had a fantastic talk from Doug previously here on Web Zurich, and I think we have the recording on the website as well, where he talked a bit about like good practices or best practices and ideas for delivering video. Today he's back again to talk about a different kind of multimedia or like visual formats on the web. This time it's about images. And I know that in his talk he will also cover a few things that are related to SEO as well, even though he might look at them from a more technical perspective, such as lazy loading and other things. So I'm really excited to have Doug Sillars here again. And I hope that you all sit at home and give a warm round of applause to our next speaker, Doug, and his talk on delivering images on the web. Doug, you ready?
I'm ready to go.
Awesome. In that case, stage is yours.
All right. I'm sharing my screen here. Here are my slides. And just so you guys know, I talked to Alexei about this earlier, but I am on a cellular plan here in Croatia, and it's unlimited data, but they've got this funky thing that every 2 gigs, you've got to send a text message to turn on your data again. So if I drop for a second, I'm going to send a text message and I'll be back on a second later. It's unlimited data, sort of. All right, can you see my screen, Martin? All right, everyone can see my screen. All right. So again, thank you so much for having me back. I spoke, I believe in December when I was in Zurich. I got to spend the holidays in Zurich, and I'm in Croatia right now. And I'm glad to be able to talk to you guys about images. So this is really exciting. So hi, I'm Doug. I do a lot of stuff on helping people make media faster, whether it's in native apps, on the web, whether it's mobile. I lead workshops on it. I wrote a book on how to speed up Android apps. If you want to download it, that's the URL. Go for it. And I'm the only Doug Sillars on the internet, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So this is in Grindelwald in Switzerland. And how many of you get a little nervous thinking about walking across this cliff? Right? It's literally nailed to the side of an Alp, right? About 4 years ago, Ericsson did this study, and they put sensors on people's heads to figure out how people felt about different stimuli. And they found that their anxiety went up when they queued up for a line. They found that people's anxiety, when they thought about standing on the edge of the cliff, they found their anxiety level went up. Actually, they found that people got more stressed out from seeing slow mobile websites than actually thinking about standing on the edge of a cliff. So that feeling you had when you were thinking about standing on the edge of a cliff is what our users feel like when we have slow mobile websites. And when you think about what builds up a website, this is from about a year ago, but it hasn't changed, right? We've got a lot of JavaScript, we've got a lot of CSS, but most websites are like half or more than half in terms of tonnage, they're images. So if you want to make your web page smaller, an easy place to look is what can we do to make our images smaller? Because if half of the stuff being downloaded is images, if we can make them smaller, it's going to make web page download faster. So hopefully a lot of you here have heard of Lighthouse. If you haven't heard of Lighthouse, it's a free tool that tests your website for a lot of things, for accessibility and for performance, and it has 4 image optimizations built into it. Looking at image quality, image format, image sizing, and lazy loading. And what I've done is, if you're looking at performance, Web Page Test is this awesome tool. It's free, it's open source. You type in your URL, it'll test it on like devices all around the world if you want, and it'll tell you how fast your web page is. It's incredible. So if you're in Switzerland and you want to see how your web page loads in Shanghai, you can use it with Web Page Test. It's pretty neat. You can use Lighthouse inside Web Page Test, so you get all the scores when you run your Web Page Test score. And then built on top of Web Page Test is this other free tool called the HTTP Archive. And what that does is every month it tests 5 million web pages with Web Page Test and with Lighthouse. So you have this giant database up in Google BigQuery that you can query and learn about how the web is being built today. And we can look at these 4 image optimizations across 5 million web pages and see sort of where the web is today. So we'll start with image quality. So Lighthouse recommends that you save all your images at 85% quality. So if you ever like opened up Photoshop or really any image processing tool, when you hit save, there's always like this slider for your JPEG images, like where do you want to save it? And Google found that like 85% is generally good enough. If you save it at 85%, you're going to make the images generally, what I found, about half the size in kilobytes, but the quality is still awesome and nobody can tell the difference. There are a lot of tools that'll do that. Image Magic can do that. It's a command line tool. You can save it at quality 85 and you get the output image. Tools like Cloud Mirror on the web, you just add a quality 85 to the URL, it generates the 85% quality image. And so this is a picture I took when I was in Latvia, and on my phone it's 3.6 megabytes. I save it at 85% and it's half the size. And there's no difference to the human eye. We can't tell the difference. There are pixels missing, but like nobody can tell. So why not do this? It's a huge savings to your web page. So I went and looked at the Lighthouse scores, and this is from about a year ago, and about half of the web gets this right, 48%. 32% score less than 50%. I just reran this, and it's about the same this year. We've gotten a little better here. We're about the same here. So like this is squeezing, right? This, 31% still are horrible. But what we're seeing is, 50% of the web is doing image quality correctly. What I found is the median savings here would be 3.7 seconds faster and 130K less data. For these folks down here who scored a 0, on mobile, they'd be 9 seconds faster and use 1.6 megabytes less data just by optimizing the quality on their web pages. You have to imagine these sites have giant images that are just not optimized for delivery on a mobile device. So can we go even better than 85%? Like Google says 85% is where we go. That's what Lighthouse tests us for. At 50%, if you look really carefully, there's some kerning up in the sky here. Like for a lot of applications on the web, you're probably all right. And it's half the size of 85%. I always try to go down to 20% so you can see like this image looks really poor, right? You can see all sorts of lines in the sky. We wouldn't want to go this low. People would start saying that the image is not of high quality. But is there a sweet spot in the middle here? And there are actually tools that will do this for us. There are tools that will find the threshold of like what the human eye can identify. Google built a tool called Booterowgli. There's also structural similarity. And it literally, there's math that decides like the human eye can start to see that the image isn't good. So we go a little bit better quality than that. There's some open source tools that will do that. Command line tools, Cloudinary can do it. There are a lot of tools out there that will do this structural similarity for you automatically. And when I do that, here's the image. If you remember, the 85% image was 1.85 megabytes. So I saved another 400K. And like, if the human eye can't tell a difference, like there's no reason not to do this. And we saved another 400K, which means, of course, that this image is going to download faster, the web page is going to load faster, the performance is better. And all the research shows that when a web page is faster, people stay on the web page longer. If it's an e-commerce site, they spend more money, which is, you know, if you're building an e-commerce site, that's probably important. There's a lot of reasons to have faster web pages. I ran these through with web page tests, right? So the full size image takes 21 seconds to download on a 3G connection. The 85% is 11, and the structural similarity, the image is 9 seconds. So we've made the download time twice as, you know, we've halved the download time. The next one we want to talk about is image formats. So there are a lot of different image formats out there that we're probably familiar with: GIFs and JPEGs and PNGs, SVGs and WebP. Let's talk about SVGs to start with. For those of you who aren't aware, SVGs are vector graphics, and they're XML. You just draw shapes in your XML, and they're text files, and they can be added inline to your HTML. And so this is the Twitter logo. You can stretch it to any size, and because it's all just vectors, it looks the same. If you do see some like pixelization here, that's because PowerPoint doesn't support SVGs, and I had to take a screenshot, make it a PNG, and then, you know, whatever, import it into PowerPoint. But I found this web page that has this sort of, you know, bullet label on it, and they're using this as a divider. It's this little tiny, it's you know, as a divider between sections. And when I was looking in the Chrome Dev Tools, I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with this SVG. And so I opened it up. It's a text file. And so you can see here we're drawing the circle and we're drawing some paths. And then you see here we've got Adobe Illustrator CRUD. And so when you create an SVG with Illustrator, it actually base64 encodes the original image and plops it in there as metadata. And what that ended up doing is this tiny little SVG logo was 946K. And I actually just checked, this SVG is still on the web page. They're still downloading every time you go to this web page. They're downloading almost a megabyte for these simple circles. The fix is, of course, to come here and click with your mouse, drag to the bottom, and press delete. And when you remove that metadata from the file, it becomes 1 kilobyte. Like, this is the easiest optimization in the entire world. It's a text file, so you can gzip it, or you can use Brotli and get it down to like half a kilobyte. So this web page for well over a year has been serving like almost a megabyte for this one file when it could be half a K. To make things worse, they have an orange version as well. They are both 946 kilobytes. For those of you who are CSS experts, you can actually take the red one and use CSS to color it orange with 2 lines of CSS. So you could have 500 bytes, download the image once, and then 2 lines of CSS, and you have 2 images. However, this web page decided to go the 1.8 megabyte approach for these 2 tiny little images. And as you can imagine, that has profound performance effects on slower connections. Like 1.8 megabytes of stuff that could be under 1K is sort of ridiculous. And we know we can do better than that. So we should do better than that. The other thing I see a lot of in terms of images is PNGs is an awesome format. It's lossless, so you can't compress it. You can't lower the quality on PNGs. By default, when you use a Mac and you take a screenshot, you may recognize this image. If you use a Mac, screenshot, year, month, day, at time. And this web page, actually, literally, they got the image all perfect on their screen, maybe in Photoshop, and then they just went and took a picture of it and then posted that online. And the Apple screenshot tool is designed to take screenshots. This is a screenshot of a tweet I took, right? That's fine. But it's not designed for optimal web performance. So I took 3,000 of those images that I found that had the word screenshot in the name. I found them in the HTTP archive. And I found that 35% of them could be 10% of the original size, right? Easy fix to make your images 10% of the original size. That's kind of a no-brainer. And all I did was turn it into a JPEG and do some quality optimizations like I did in the first section. The other thing we can do, and this is in Lighthouse, is we can go to newer image formats. And so Chrome, Firefox, and Edge support WebP. Safari supports JPEG 2000. These are newer image formats. I believe JPEG's like 27 years old. WebP is about 8 or 9 years old. JPEG 2000, I don't know when it came out. I think it's only about 8 or 9 years old as well. You can see that WebP is supported in a lot of the major modern browsers. It's not in Safari. There have been rumors for years that it's coming. We've got our fingers crossed that it will come to Safari at some point. But if I do structural similarity and then I do WebP, I save another 400K on this image, right? So it's now at that optimal quality. I've changed the format and it's now under a megabyte. We can now see that it now takes 7 seconds to load. And if you're building different formats, you can use the picture tag in your HTML. And what the picture tag does is the browser picks the first format it knows what to do with. So if you're in Safari and it sees a WebP, it just falls down to the JPEG. If you're in one of the browsers that supports WebP, you get the WebP image, and that's awesome. So image format on the web, we find that 18% a year ago were using the alternative formats. 62% were failing. This has improved a little bit. We're at 3% higher here. So as of last month, 21% of the web is getting a score of 1, which is the highest score you can in Lighthouse for using alternate image formats. For those who are failing, they could be 6 seconds faster on a 3G connection. For the ones that scored 0, we're talking the median page, so 13% of the web would save at least 2.4 megabytes of data and be 15 seconds faster. Can you imagine waiting 30, 40 seconds for a web page to load? These are these pages down here. And simply by optimizing those image formats, they could speed up the web page. Sizing. We heard about sizing images in the last talk a little bit. We want to make sure that the images are sized appropriately for the different size devices. The example here is I have this picture of a cathedral in Serbia. It's, what is that? Lots of, 13 megapixels, something like that. And it was 1.6 megabytes. I optimized it, it's 800K with all the stuff I've done so far. But it's still 13 million pixels. And if you show it on a small screen, you end up throwing away 12.5 million pixels. The phone has to download all 13 million pixels, but only 500,000 show up on the screen. So if you're on a low-powered device, like the CPU has to fire up and throw away like 95% of what's showing up on the screen. It's sort of like when you buy something from Amazon, and you get this giant box full of brown paper, and you open it up, and you open up all the paper, and there's like a pencil in the bottom of the box. That's what we're doing when we have these really huge images and we're trying to serve them up on small screens. And so and there's actually a second tax to this, in that on a 3G connection, it doesn't matter what device this downloads on. It takes about 14 seconds to download. On a fast CPU, it takes under 100 milliseconds to resize it. To take 16 million pixels down to 1 million pixels, it took 78 milliseconds. On a Motorola G4, which is like a mid-range device, it took 200 milliseconds. On the Alcatel One X, which is this really, really low-end, like 50 euros at the store Android device, it took another 800 milliseconds for the phone to decode the image. And so that extra processing is making your web page slower to people on these devices. There are a lot of different devices out there, a lot of different device sizes. This is all Android devices that hit Akamai in one day. And you can see all the different size screens, or the different size is the number of devices in the market. Green means it's a fast CPU, red means it's a slow CPU. There are a lot of very low market share, very slow devices out there. So how do you have the right size image for all these devices? The answer is responsive images, where you generate a bunch of different image sizes. In this case, I generated a bunch that were all 25 kilobytes different. And when the browser finds the right size image, in this case, now I'm only throwing away 100,000 pixels instead of 12.5 million pixels. There are a lot of tools that can do this. You can look in your analytics to see what screens are hitting your website, and you can find maybe like, in this case, I did 20 different images, and that's probably insane. That's probably way too many. But maybe you can find like small, medium, large, extra large, 4 different size images that sort of fits all of the different devices in a nice way so that you can serve an appropriately sized image to all of the different devices that are out there. I mean, it doesn't make sense to serve 13 million pixels to a device with a very small screen. And to be honest, I see this happen all the time, even on really popular websites, even in popular mobile apps. I was just profiling a mobile app where there was like let's say like a 14 megapixel image that was showing up as a thumbnail, right? Literally a thumbnail. So once we resize the image to be responsive, it's the right number of pixels. And so you can see the image. And so this is it's a WebP. It's responsive. It's done the structural similarity. We're down to now 2 seconds on a 3G connection, 120K. And 120K image, that's reasonable. Like, we're downloading the right size image for a mobile device, whereas a megabyte is still a little bit large. We should try to be as small as possible to keep our web pages fast. If we look last year, 58% of the web was passing this, a quarter was failing. We've improved a bit on this one. We are still doing only 20% is failing and 66% are passing. So it's almost like the people from this bucket went up to that bucket, which is great. So we're seeing still steady adoption of responsive images on the web. Again, if you're not being responsive, your web page will be faster on a mobile device. If you're really bad and scoring a 0, you could be 15 seconds faster. And that's pretty remarkable just by changing the image sizes. The last one is lazy loading, which Martin was correct that I was going to talk about lazy loading. And so the idea behind lazy loading is, of course, that if you have a full web page with lots of images that are below the fold, if you want the web page to load faster, only load the ones that are going to show up on the screen. And you just kicked 4 images out of the load time of your website. There are a lot of JavaScript libraries that will do this for you. It will decide, with the intersection observer, what images are near showing up on the screen and load them. This is also built into light mode in Chrome Mobile. So on Android devices, you can turn this on and it will run for you. This is 2 years ago. It was very low adoption. But last year we went up to 56% adoption, and we're at 59% adoption for lazy loading today. So 60% of the web is doing this, which is awesome. For the sites that are not lazy loading, we're looking at 3 seconds of savings. And then, of course, these folks who are getting zeros, I have this sort of gut feeling that the sites that are scoring 0 and this one are scoring 0 and all the other ones as well, they could save like 2 megabytes and 12 seconds of load time. And so the idea behind lazy loading is, just don't load the images that are going to show up on this. Just load the images that are showing up on the screen. And when people scroll, then the JavaScript will make the request to download those images properly. So, these are the 4 optimizations that are built into into Lighthouse. And so if you run a Lighthouse test on your web page, you'll find out how you're doing with these. And you can then go through and follow the approaches that I've talked about here to optimize your images, and then add lazy loading as a JavaScript library, and you can make your web page run a lot faster. And by making your web page run faster, it becomes accessible to more people around the world who are on slower network connections. And then, of course, people tend to come back to web pages that are fast more often. So that's a great thing. So in conclusion, we can optimize our images for quality, format, sizing. We can lazy load them. I talked about animated GIFs, I believe, in December. I can talk about that really briefly here for those of you who didn't get to hear that talk. And we can also monitor some headers. So let me just show that really quickly. This is preview images. So this is a part of lazy loading. You can, use low quality image placeholders. These are just SVGs, and then load in those. And so that's lazy loading. Sorry. So animated GIFs. This is my goat Nora back in Seattle. I took a movie of her, 1.4 megabytes. I turned it into a GIF, 3.8 megabytes. GIFs are extremely bloated. If you're going to put GIFs on your web page, really the best practice is not to use a GIF. And if you go all the way back to 1990 and you read the spec, this is literally in the spec for GIF. It says don't use animated GIFs, even though you can. I know I'm not listening to the inventor of GIF on the pronunciation, but maybe we should listen to them on the usage. And the reason for that is GIFs are literally, if you have 20 frames per second, it's literally 20 GIFs. There's no compression over time. So you should make it a movie and then serve it as a video file. If you ever look on Twitter, you'll see that this says it's a GIF, right? But if you look in DevTools, it's a movie. So never actually use GIFs on your web pages. Use a movie, and then you can use the video tag and you set it to loop autoplay and muted, and it'll just loop the movie, and it looks like a GIF. And so that's the way to do that. So I'm really happy to be back at Web Zurich, and I appreciate you all having me again. We can optimize our images a lot of different ways to make web pages faster. Here are all the tools that I used. I used Web Page Test and HTTP Archive for the analysis of what the web is doing today. I used Image Magic, Structural Similarity. I used Lazy Sizes as my library for lazy loading. And I did some stuff with Cloudinary just because it's a really easy tool for optimizing images quickly for demos. And so with that, thanks so much for having me. And images can be beautiful and fast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. That was amazing. And I am a sucker for these kind of topics, both video and image, specifically image, actually. I once did a really interesting collaboration with Una Kravets, who used lots of fancy CSS techniques to even further be able to compress images and deliver even less data. And I think it's just so sad that people are sometimes just throwing huge images onto people on tiny devices so that the image has more pixels than the entire screen. And it's just it's a waste of bandwidth. It's a waste of everyone's time and resources and money. So I think it's a really, really interesting and important topic. I have one other not so important question. I looked at this image, and I was the demo image that you showed oftentimes. Is that the church in Novi Sad?
It is the church in Novi Sad.
Ha! Yes. I wasn't 100% sure, and I was distracted from parts of your talk because I was like, hold on, this must be no. Wait a minute. Let me check the pictures I took in Novi Sad. So it is the church in Novi Sad.
It is. Oh, did I stop sharing?
Awesome.
I can stop sharing. Yeah, that is the church in Novi Sad. So one of the great things about getting to travel a lot is I get to put pictures of places I've been in my talks, which is fun.
That's awesome. Did you have a chance to meet the lovely people at Dafed in Novi Sad? There's a local web community, and they're really, really friendly and nice.
No, I spoke at the GDG group there, I believe, and I also spoke at Armada.js, which probably people.
Yeah, Armada.js. It's a tightly knit community there. They're really nice and friendly.
Yes.
Super cool. Right. Thank you so much again for doing this talk, and I hope that we see more talks like this from you and others in the future. Always a pleasure to have you, Doug, and I'm sure we'll be able to meet again in person eventually. And, hang
I
out
hope so.
and have a good time as well. I'm really happy that we had these amazing talks today, and I hope that the chat would agree it was an amazing time and so much information and good stuff. Good stuff on a Wednesday evening. Fantastic. What else could I wish for? Now, as I have mentioned earlier, we do have the opportunity to hop into a after party. If you point your browser to webzh.dev/afterparty, there is a video and audio chat. You don't have to enable your camera if you don't want to, but you can chat with each other and us if you want to. You can join our Slack and you can find out what's going on around Web Zurich on our website, as well as the next meetup being on the 17th of July. I hope to see you all. Maybe also in person. I'll also post this link. Oh, fantastic. Alexei did that already. So there you have the link if you want to join us. I also posted it into the chat actually because I think that has the upside of allowing you to just click on the link if you want to do that. webzh.dev. Now it's like live typing. Oh my God. After a party. And it's a different keyboard layout as well, which freaks me out, but that's okay.
So,
cool.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you for being our awesome MC as usual. And yeah, let's go over to the after party chat, right?
Yes.
And we will end the stream for today. And thank you very much for coming and being our guests and speakers and watchers and whatnot. Thank you very much. And see you in the after party.
See you in the after party.